So when it comes to communication between kids and parents across households, your goal is not just providing connection and communication for your child. Your goal is emotional permission. Permission for your child to be fully present in one home without feeling like they're abandoning, disappointing, or having to fix the people in their other home.
Man, I love that goal. Thanks for sharing that. Welcome to the Blended Family Breakthrough Podcast. We're your hosts, Mike and Kim.
We believe in a world where blended families can experience a future full of hope, connection, and peace.
That's why we offer tools, strategies, and guidance that move you from a place of confusion and conflict to experiencing a life of confidence and connection.
We're so glad you're joining us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations as we cover everything from romance to parenting, and yes, even dealing with that difficult ex.
So if you're ready to experience breakthrough in your blended family, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome, and thanks for joining us today, just like you do every week. What a privilege it is to just hang out with you guys every week. Hey, if you haven't had the opportunity to yet, we would so appreciate you heading over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and just give us that 5-star rating, and then maybe share why you would give a 5-star rating and how we might be bringing value to you. That really helps us to communicate to other people the value of the content, and it helps them to make a choice of what kind of support they're going to have for their blended family, because there's a whole lot of other people in the world who really need support with their blended family as well. So would you help us to help them find us?
Absolutely.
I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for doing that. And let's go ahead and hop into our content for today. You know, a common question that we hear from blended families is, how often should my child call the other parent when they're with us? And how often should my ex be checking in with our child during my time? Yeah. Now, that might sound simple, but it can become a surprising struggle in a blended home because it's rarely just about a phone call. It's about a lot more, like attachment, anxiety, loyalty, control, guilt, routines, boundaries, and even about belonging. All of those things kind of wrapped up into one little notification on a screen.
And step parents, this can hit you in a very specific way. Sometimes it feels like your spouse's ex is calling the shots and controlling your time and focus, and you might be left wondering, are we ever going to be left alone to just be a family?
Right, that's right. And bio parents, you might feel pulled in two directions, like wanting your child to feel secure and connected, while also wanting to protect the peace and predictability of the home that you're trying to build now. Yeah.
And for the kids, it can be pretty confusing, sometimes unsettling, or filled with pressure and anxiety at times. That pulled feeling is something Patricia Pappernow has helped stepfamilies name for years. Kids can feel like they have to manage the emotional needs of both homes, and adults can get drawn into loyalty tensions they didn't intend to create. So today, we're going to give you a clear framework, practical and respectful of both households, so you can make decisions that reduce emotional burden and strengthen stability for your kids. That's our overarching goal, right?
That's right.
Now, before we get to the 5 guiding principles, let's talk about what kids need most. Here's the mindset that we need to keep front and center. Kids don't just need access to each parent. They need settling. The ability to feel safe, grounded, and fully present in the home they're in.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Ron Deal talks a lot about building a step family home that has clarity and safety, where children can relax. And one of the biggest threats to relaxation is when kids feel that they have to constantly keep one foot emotionally rooted in the other house. I love Lauren Reitzema's lens that can be so helpful here. She says, imagine what it's like for a child to move between worlds, different rules, different routines, different expectations, different relationships. Even good transitions take cognitive energy. And of course, these transitions can naturally create emotional tension and anxiety.
Right. So let's try to put ourselves in our kids' shoes and feel what this can be like for them. Imagine you've decided to go back to school to earn a nursing degree. You're taking 2 core classes, anatomy and patient care. And honestly, you love both of these classes. They're interesting, engaging, and you actually enjoy showing up. On top of that, both professors are supportive and encouraging. So you want to do well. You really want to make them proud. But these 2 professors are also very different. Their classrooms are on opposite ends of the campus. Their teaching styles, expectations, and routines don't match. Still, you do your best to adjust as you move back and forth between each class. Now picture this. You're sitting in your anatomy class. You're fully engaged, locked in, tracking the lecture, enjoying the atmosphere. And then your phone starts blowing up. You try to ignore it, but you can't help but wonder if it's something important. So you take a quick peek and see that your patient care professor has posted a question in the student portal. And it looks like they want an answer quickly. You respect this professor. You want to make a good impression. So you step out of anatomy to respond, and you spend a few minutes engaging in the portal. Then you head back into anatomy and you try to refocus, but it's hard. Your mind is still on the response you just posted. And while you were gone, the class moved on without you. Now you're playing catch up, wondering what you missed, whether it was important, and you're feeling a little unsettled. And underneath that, there's this low-grade guilt. Why do I feel like I'm letting someone down? Sure, you're learning, but you also feel uneasy and torn, caught between 2 classes, 2 sets of expectations, 2 voices you're trying to please. Now, fast forward to the next day. You're in your patient care class, and you want to be fully present. You're excited to be there, but there's a nagging pressure in the back of your mind because your anatomy professor spontaneously scheduled an on-campus event at the exact same time as your patient care class. You can't attend both, but you feel like you should do something to show your anatomy professor that you care. Maybe check in with them. Maybe message a classmate. Get an update so you don't look disengaged. The pressure builds and it starts to hijack your focus. You're physically sitting in patient care, but mentally you're split. And finally, just to relieve that tension, you slip out of class to call a classmate from anatomy who you know is attending the event. But instead of feeling better, you feel worse. Now you've missed part of patient care and you're unsettled again, guilty for leaving, anxious about what you missed, and frustrated that you can't just be where you are without feeling pulled somewhere else. You feel torn.
That's such a great example, honey. You know, it gives a bit of an idea of that tug of war that might be happening inside of our kids. But honestly, I'm not sure it fully captures the emotional weight kids carry as they move between 2 homes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, in the example, you're talking about professors and classes that last maybe a month or 2, right? But your kids aren't navigating relationships like that. They're moving between parents, right? People that they are deeply bonded to, that they depend on, and they have a lifelong relationship with.
Yeah, absolutely,
right?
yeah.
These are the most important relationships in their world. I know our world doesn't want to believe that right now, but that's actually true.
It's very true.
And the reality is kids love both parents. And they do want to please both parents. I know that also doesn't feel true sometimes, but they do. At the core, kids want to please both their parents. And they certainly don't want to cause either parent any pain. And yet, They're the ones required to move back and forth, constantly adjusting, constantly managing, constantly trying to belong in two places at once. And here's what can happen. The emotional pain an adult experiences when their child isn't with them can start to feel to the child like an unfixable problem that they are now responsible to solve.
So when it comes to communication between kids and parents across households, your goal is not just providing connection and communication for your child. Your goal is emotional permission. Permission for your child to be fully present in one home without feeling like they're abandoning, disappointing, or having to fix the people in their other home. So let's unpack 5 principles that can help us meet that goal.
Man, I love that goal. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's hop right into the first principle, and that is child-driven communication. Yes, I know some of you just went, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. We want to be able to allow the child to be fully present in the home they're in. And it's helpful to let the child request calling the other parent as opposed to the other parent initiating, of course, aside from emergencies or truly necessary logistical issues and things like that.
Right.
Why is that? Well, because when the adult initiates, the child often experiences it as an emotional pull. Even if the call is loving, it can quietly send the message, you should be missing me right now and interested in our home. Or, you're not okay or safe unless I check in on you. Or, you need to make me feel better because I'm feeling sad and insecure or unsettled while you're away.
And for a lot of kids, that creates a loyalty conflict. They may be laughing and having fun with mom and stepdad, and then bio dad calls, and suddenly they feel pressure to switch emotional gears. They might even worry, what if dad feels hurt if he knows that I'm enjoying myself over here? Not too long ago in episode 229, we unpacked the heavy emotional burden kids carry as they move between homes. Something as simple as an unexpected call can trigger that tension. And we'll link that episode in the show notes in case you missed it, so that you can learn how loyalty binds impact kids and what you can do to help relieve that stress.
That's right. You know, child-driven communication also gives kids some autonomy. It lets them practice a healthy internal signal. Maybe they feel, man, I genuinely would like to connect right now, as opposed to, I'm responsible for managing the expectations and feelings of the parent that's missing me right now. There is a huge difference between those two things. It's completely natural for a child to want to call and share something meaningful or exciting, like, I lost a tooth today, or I aced my math test, or I made the team, or I got the part in the school play, or I got asked to prom today, right? Those are all exciting things that's really natural for a child to want to share. But it's a very different experience when a child feels pressure to respond to an interrupting call or that nightly check-in, and they're expected to simply recite ordinary day-to-day details simply because it's what the parent wants or thinks they need.
Lauren Reitzema, author of the book In Their Shoes, talks about what she calls the stress of duplication. When kids are expected to retell the play-by-play of their day multiple times, it can become exhausting and honestly pretty frustrating for kids. Think about it. Mom picks them up from school and starts asking all the usual questions. How was your day? What happened with your friends? How do you do on the big test? Oh, by the way, did you ask the music teacher about concert details? All the stuff, right? And the child does their best to answer. Then they get home and stepdad asks about their day, so they repeat much of what they've already shared in the car with mom. Then a few hours later, bio dad calls and asks the same questions, expecting the same level of detail all over again. As Lauren puts it, it's already difficult to get authentic and honest conversation out of a child. But to expect that child to have the capacity and grace to duplicate their life experiences so that both sides of the blended family have equal access to the full story, that can be an unfair expectation.
That's right. Lauren goes on to say, one of the sacrifices parents must accept as part of a blended family is that they may need to surrender their need or perceived right to know all the details of a child's experience.
Yeah. When we practice this first principle of child-driven communication, we allow kids to choose what they want to share and when they want to share it. And we remove pressure and unfair expectation that can rob them of feeling relaxed and fully present in the home they're in.
That's right. Here's just a little practical guidance. For younger kids, you can offer a gentle invitation. It might sound like this. Hey, if you want to call mom later, we can. Just let me know. Mm-hmm. For older kids or teens, less prompting is actually usually better. They'll connect when they want to connect, and most of them have the ability to do that with their own phone in their pocket these days, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the second principle, which is limits and boundaries are healthy and helpful. Now, if parents agree to regular check-ins that are parent-initiated rather than child-driven, that's a different approach here we're talking about, the calls should be predictable and protected by boundaries so that the child can experience a stable routine rather than a stressful disruption. Now, predictability really helps kids to relax. They don't have to wonder, when is dad going to be calling? And it helps the household plan around it rather than consistently having to make adjustments that tend to feel intrusive and unfair. So here's some practical boundaries that you may think about setting if you take this approach. There needs to be a time window, for instance, between 6:30 and 6:45, so that it's not this big open-ended chunk of time.
Sometime tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Right.
We need to have a set length. 5 to 10 minutes is great, especially for younger kids. We need to have some boundaries around the topics. Child-focused and relationship-focused topics, not adult topics. That's really important.
Yeah. What do you mean by that, adult topics?
Things like delivering messages through the child. So tell your mom this or tell your dad that. That's called triangulation, and we want to stay away from that. Keep that amongst the adults.
That's right.
We also want to be careful not to add any emotional burdens. So don't be adding on guilt or pressure or interrogating a child during these times. This should be light and easy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really big danger zone there. Because when a child becomes emotionally or relationally burdened by that contact with the other parent, it just doesn't help them, right? And so that burden you're just talking about sometimes sounds like, oh, I'm so lonely here tonight without you, right? Yeah. That's actually heaping burden on the child. Yeah. I can't sleep when you're not here in the house.
Yeah.
Like, again, that's a burden for the, or I miss you more than you miss me, right?
Gosh.
Sometimes those are like feel cute and fun, like little games, but actually that can really create burden.
Yeah. Or is everything okay over there? Are you safe? Do you need to leave early?
Yeah.
Don't plant seeds of fear. Or your stepmom doesn't really love you like I do.
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition. Yeah. Or tell your dad I need him to deposit the support check. That's triangulation. Don't put him in the middle.
Yep.
All of that is adult emotion being handed to a child, and it creates pressure and unrealistic expectations that kids simply are not equipped to carry.
That's right. And honestly, it doesn't matter how mature your child seems. Okay. I remember thinking that, oh man, my kids are so mature. They're just so great. Well, the truth is they have an underdeveloped brain and they're not as mature as they actually seem.
They're in their childhood.
Yeah. They might act like they want to be included in adult emotional issues. But the truth is when they're being asked to carry weight that doesn't belong to them. And over time, that chips away at the normal, carefree childhood that they really deserve and you probably want for them.
Yep.
And if you want to learn a little bit more about the impact kids experience in these unhealthy parent-child dynamics, you can find a link to episode 161 in the show notes. Okay, so go check that out as well. Honey, let's hop to the next one. What's the third principle?
A third principle is respect the visitation structure. Excessive contact, especially during routine times like bedtime, meals, homework, or transitions, can feel intrusive and disruptive. It can also subtly communicate, I don't trust the other home to take care of you. Even if that's not what you mean, kids can absorb it that way. In a blended family, this is huge. The blended couple is trying to build household rhythms. If the other parent can insert themselves into key routines whenever they want, well, it makes it harder for the child to attach to the routine. And harder for the step parent to feel like there's a protected family space in their own home.
That's right. Ron Deal's work over years constantly points couples towards structure that lowers stress. The truth is, predictability creates stability. So think about some things that might need to be protected. Things like handoffs between homes. This is not a time for emotional texts or phone calls or ongoing contact as the kids are driving away, right? You really need to send your kids off with a positive attitude and give them the freedom they need to acclimate to the other home without adding emotional strain.
Yes.
Or bedtime, right? High emotion plus tired brains equals big meltdowns, right? This is a time when we actually want kids to start winding down, not gearing up to meet an expectation of connection with the other parent. We actually want to protect bedtime in the other home. Or mealtime and family time and homework time and practice time, right? Anytime a child's participation is needed and their focus is needed. Maybe in your home, you're focused on teaching responsibility, and the expectation is that all the kids help clear the table and clean up after dinner. But when the other parent calls right in that moment, it disrupts the routine and it starts to raise tension. The child might step away to take the incoming call, and meanwhile, the dirty dishes are just sitting there. Now, the adults are stuck making a decision in real time. Well, shoot, do we pause and wait now? Do we excuse the child from the responsibility? And guess what? Whatever you choose is likely going to be interpreted by everyone else in the house. Maybe the kids who are left with a workload, or the step parent who might be wondering, is this becoming a way to avoid the responsibility? You see, in blended family life, a simple call from the other home can create confusion, and over time, it's a breeding ground for resentment.
Absolutely. If contact from the other parent makes things unpredictable, stressful, or unstable in your home, that's a problem. And the exes will need to work out better boundaries to contain the unpredictability. At the same time, let's look at the fourth principle. The fourth principle is balance is key, but context matters. Now, some research suggests that frequent contact with a non-custodial parent can benefit kids. But the big qualifier is this. It tends to work best when cooperation is high and conflict is low between the two homes. When both sets of parents are relaxed, kids are better equipped to manage cross-home communication.
In other words, frequency can help in peaceful co-parenting systems, but in high conflict situations where tension is palpable, frequent contact can actually become a pipeline for stress, guilt, triangulation, or manipulation.
Some research is based on schedules where a parent only sees a child maybe every other weekend or less even. Maybe they live out of state or have to travel a lot for work. In those situations, contact might function differently than in a shared custody where kids are closer to moving 50-50 between the two homes. What we don't want you to do is take a one-size-fits-all approach and apply it to your reality. Every blended family dynamic is different. What we do want you to do is mindfully consider each of the principles we're sharing with you today and view them through the lens of what your children need most.
Here's a simple two-question decision filter. First, Does our communication pattern increase the child's predictability and stability, or does it disrupt routines? And second, does our communication content feed loyalty binds and possibly increase stress, or is it centered on what the child might want to share? These are two very simple questions, one focused on the pattern of our communication, the other focused on the content. And as your kids connect with the other home, be on the lookout for warning signs. If a child starts to get anxious, angry, tearful, sullen, withdrawn, or experiences a sudden mood change after the call, that's a strong clue that the conversation might be emotionally loaded, not just staying connected. And while connection with a parent matters, we don't want to insist on a pattern of communication when it's doing more harm than good for the child.
So carefully consider the context while balancing the needs of your kids. With high conflict co-parenting, it might be best for contact to be less frequent, more structured, and protected with specific boundaries. For kids that have anxiety, structure really helps. Parent-initiated calls might actually increase anxiety if conversations communicate worry or fear to the kids. They pick up on our emotions and can be deeply impacted by that. For teenagers, it might be appropriate to give them a little bit more control and trust. Offer access, not pressure. In the case of a long-distance parent, frequency may be more important, but still protect routines and guard against emotional burdens.
Yeah, those are great little points, honey. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so first we explored why child-driven communication can be beneficial. Then, what healthy, helpful limits and boundaries might look like. The third principle is all about respecting the visitation structure. Then we explored why balance is key and that context matters. Hun, what's the fifth and final principle?
The fifth principle, quality over quantity.
Good one.
Quality communication is not the same as frequent communication. The daily check-ins can become low quality from the child's perspective. It can feel like a chore. Tell me what you did. What did you eat? Did you do your homework? What time are you planning to go to bed? That's not connection. That's reporting, and it's micromanaging.
Yeah. You know, if a child isn't naturally compelled to call the other parent, but the parent calls to connect, sometimes for the child, that can feel forced or like a performance, as if they have to prove loyalty to the parent who's not present. So instead of measuring love by frequency, we want to measure love by felt experience.
I love that.
Does the child feel lighter after the call or heavier? Examples of a higher quality connection could be like a short voicemail or a text that simply says, "I love you and I hope that you're having a good week at your mom's. I'll see you on Friday after school," right? Or maybe a shared moment type of call like, "Oh man, I thought about you today when this funny thing happened to me. Anything funny happened to you today?" That can be much more high quality.
Yeah. The low quality patterns that we want to avoid are things like interrogation style calls, bombarding with lots of questions and insisting on knowing every detail. That's probably not adding value to your child's life, especially if you're interrupting something engaging that might be going on in the other home.
It's so hard. I'm great at interrogation.
You are.
I know.
Other low-quality patterns might include those daily check-ins that feel like a chore or an obligation. Calls that turn into adult topics, we definitely need to avoid. Things like custody issues, logistics, schedules, money, or asking the child to report details of what's going on over there.
Yeah, that's tough.
Ooh, that's very invasive. All right, bio parents who are still with us today.
You haven't turned us off by now. Yeah.
Even though you kind of hate what we might be talking about today, I get it. This is so hard. I've been in your shoes. It's genuinely difficult to go days or even a whole week without talking to your kids. And a lot of parents feel like daily contact is not only reasonable, but right. But I want to gently suggest that there are usually two layers underneath that belief. The first layer is this. You might believe that your kids need to know how much you miss them, that you're thinking about them, you love them, and that you want to hear everything that's happening when you're not together. And somewhere underneath that is probably fear. Like if I'm not constantly engaged and reminding them, they'll start to think I don't care. Will they worry? Will they question my commitment as a parent? So this first layer is the belief that your child needs frequent contact in order to stay reassured of your love and devotion.
And is that accurate?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
If, when your kids are with you, you're a caring, supportive, steady parent, you're engaged and emotionally present, your kids already know you love them.
Mm-hmm.
When love is expressed in your home, affection is given, and their needs are being met, they typically aren't leaving your home and then suddenly wondering, does mom love me? You have been loving them, and they've been experiencing that love all along. Even if they miss you while they're away, most kids with a secure bond trust that you'll be there when they come back.
That's right.
Right? And you'll pick up right where you left off. When your day-to-day actions communicate commitment, they don't need constant reminders. Think about it. When they come to your home and you've stocked all their favorite food or you've planned something fun to do together, those kinds of actions speak loudly. The kind of parent you are when your kids are with you does the talking when they're not with you.
Well said.
And if your kids truly need reassurance, well, they can always call you and reach out to you. You don't have to carry the pressure of constantly reaching out to prove your love.
Okay. Well said, honey. So you said there's 2 layers. What's the second layer?
Well, the second layer is a bit more complicated because it's when a parent feels the need to connect because of their own internal struggle. When your child is away from you, you might feel lonely, worried, disconnected, unsure, anxious, and you know what? That's normal. Those feelings make sense. But when you reach out to your child primarily for your own reassurance and emotional comfort, now you're making contact because it's what you need in the moment, not necessarily what's best for your child.
And that internal struggle is really hard to wrestle with.
Yeah.
Honey, I know that was really challenging for you when Annika was over at her dad's house.
It was really hard, which is why next week in our Simple Step episode, I'm going to walk you through some healthy ways to manage your own internal struggle so you can stay focused on what your kids need most. Because that's our overarching goal, right? Giving our children emotional permission to be fully present in one home without feeling like they're abandoning, disappointing, or having to be responsible for you. Emotional permission creates a relaxed environment where kids experience the predictability, the safety, and stability they really need as they move between 2 homes.
That's right. So make sure you're subscribed to the show because you don't want to miss that simple step with Kim next week. Now, before we wrap up, let's briefly touch on the blended couples relationship. Okay, we've talked a lot about dealing with your ex and dealing with the child and how you're going to create some structure and all that. But there's a lot of conflict that tends to pop up for couples in one home that isn't really about should the child have contact or not. It's a little deeper than that. The bio parent is often kind of focused on the connection part. My child needs to feel connected to both parents. And if we're going to reduce that connection, the quantity of the access, that feels really uncomfortable for a bio parent.
Yeah.
Right? But the step parent has a different lens, right? They're often kind of experiencing intrusion and lack of boundaries, right? They're thinking, well, I want to honor and protect the child's time in the other home, but I also want our time to be honored and protected too, right? It's not about blocking connection. It's about creating stability.
Right.
Right. And so they're just 2 different lenses. And what ends up happening sometimes is couples get stuck. And guess what? We talk about it all the time here on the show. They end up in that trapped teammate, stranded stranger dynamic.
Exactly. Patricia Pappernow would say that step families have predictable developmental challenges, and this is one of them.
For sure.
It's not evidence that you're failing, okay? It's evidence that you're normal. So instead of facing off over who's right and who's wrong, couples need to talk about phone calls as a family system issue, something that you're able to problem solve together. So here are a few helpful questions to ask as a couple. What does contact from the other home represent to each of us emotionally? Reassurance, bonding, guilt, relief, control, intrusion? Talk about those things.
Another question you can ask is, what's most important to protect? Is it our child's security? Is it the predictability between the homes? Is it those household rhythms? Is it our unity as a couple? Yeah. There's a lot of different things that we might be focused on protecting.
And then lastly, what shared values do we want leading the way? Do we want the kids feeling loved and settled? Do we want to model healthy communication and provide stability? What are the values underneath all of this?
Yeah. So those are some powerful things to explore as you consider these 5 principles and decide what fits your children and your household and your co-parenting dynamic. And if you want some help applying this to your specific unique situation, we encourage you to schedule a free coaching call with us, or maybe you'll just hop right in and join us in the Blending Together community, where you'll get to hear how other couples are navigating this kind of challenge and all kinds of other things, like what's working and what's not, and what new ideas could you borrow as you try to move forward.
That's right. You don't have to figure this out alone.
Definitely not.
And if it's becoming clear to you that something needs to shift around contact from the other home, but you're worried that your ex won't be open to that change, or you're concerned they'll take your suggestion the wrong way and there'll be some misunderstandings around your intentions, well, that's normal too. It isn't easy to disrupt long-standing patterns or help an ex understand the benefits of a change you genuinely believe is healthier for your child. So if that's you, we want you to head over to the links in the show notes and listen to episode 212. And if you're dealing with an ex who tends to disregard, devalue, or dismiss your parental input, we lay out a really helpful communication format in episode 113 that you can follow along, and you'll find a link in the show notes.
That's right. So here's the takeaway. Communication between homes should serve your child's stability, not function as a way to relieve an adult's anxiety or meet the adult's emotional needs. If your current pattern leaves your child more unsettled, more guilty, or more emotionally burdened, that's not connection, that's pressure.
Yeah. Instead, aim for child-driven communication when possible, put healthy limits and clear boundaries in place, respect the home your child is in, keep balance, but always consider the context, and choose quality over quantity. When you consider these principles thoughtfully and apply them to your unique family dynamic, you can create more clarity and stability for your kids, which helps them to relax and actually enjoy being in each of their homes. And that's what they need most, and they deserve that.
Yep. And if this topic is a recurring source of conflict in your marriage, don't just argue about phone calls. Step back and ask, what are we really trying to accomplish for our kids and our home? That conversation alone can move you from conflict to more teamwork.
Yep. And again, if you want help applying these principles to your exact situation, especially if there's high conflict, loyalty binds, or a step parent who feels pushed to the outside, we encourage you to join us inside Blending Together, where we coach couples through these dynamics and so much more with clarity and practical next steps.
That's right. We can't wait to see you in there, and definitely make sure you stay tuned in for next week's Simple Step with Kim.
Yep.
But for now, we're going to make today's episode a wrap.
Until next time.